I am a father and mother wound coach. I help women who, all the way from who've never met their mother or father, who've been abandoned by either of their parents, people who've been sexually abused by their parents, all the way from those who parents had addiction, where now the daughter is suffering. So I do it all, and why and how, why I do it is because I know from experience of being a fatherless daughter. I lost my dad when I was 9 to drug abuse, and it really caused a lot of turbulence in my life, especially how you had said, Yats, dating. Oh my goodness. Emotionally unavailable men were like my go-to. And I had no idea why. I always was like, I just attract the wrong guys. No, the truth is I didn't address my father wound yet. Wasn't able to heal from that. So subconsciously, I constantly felt comfortable with being with men who couldn't give me what I knew I deserved at the time.
That's the key word that you hit, that you said, I felt comfortable with men who couldn't give me what I deserved. And it's so unconscious, right?
Absolutely. I said I was ready for a relationship, but I knew internally, deep down, I didn't feel worthy.
Exactly.
So,
sorry, go on.
Oh, no. So it took me through a whirlwind of, so many negative coping, sex, drugs, alcohol, which I know we're going to go over. It's all in our routine that we have already scheduled. But it took me a whole whirlwind of coping. And when you don't take the time to, first and foremost, have awareness of where it's coming from and why you keep finding yourself in these cycles, the cycles are going to continue to repeat themselves until you get to the core wound of it all. And that's why I'm a firm believer of coaches. Therapists, I love therapists, but at the same time, I mean, I've been in therapy since I was 3, and getting to the core of it is what we really need to be set free. So with that being said, I thought once I was able to heal and address my father wound, I realized there must be other women out there who are suffering the same thing and just aren't aware of why they keep finding themselves in these cycles, either people pleasing, abandonment, emotionally unavailable men. And that is where my coaching came into fruition. And it's been so amazing ever since. I've helped so many women all around the world. You know, time zones kind of affect me a little bit, India especially, because it's such a huge difference. But I'm trying to show up as much as I can within like time zones for women. And, you know, it's been amazing ever since.
That's amazing. You know, I find that, you know, I've had so many women in my group, as you may know. It's predominantly, I think, in the inner work space. It's a large community of women because women are open to accepting, you know, where their emotions play a part in their lives. Men are still growing into that a little bit. And so, you know, women are a big portion of my community. And so they say, I'm ready for love. I want this guy. I had a comment yesterday, actually, where someone said, you know, I'm so ready for a relationship, but every time I get into a relationship, the guy leaves me within a week and goes on to somebody else. And that relationship then lasts so long. And she said, you know, what is it about the guys I pick? And I said, the interesting thing is about, you have to look about not at what you're looking at, but what are you looking through? And what we're looking through is the eyes of wounding, the eyes of conditioning, the eyes of pain, the eyes, we're looking through these glasses, goggles, whatever, that tell us that this is what all you deserve and this is all you can get. And so we unconsciously work to reprove those beliefs. And, you know, even though we're ready on a conscious or like, you know, verbal front, we don't feel worthy of being truly ready on a subconscious front. And that's where our wounds and our conditioning limit us, right?
Right. And if we're not worthy, if we don't feel worthy within, how do we expect someone else to see that worthiness through us?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
So thank you so much. Thanks so much for telling us about, like, you know, how you came to being what you did, because the best way to teach someone is actually having gone through something. And so that's the best way I think you can
teach
offer.
from experience.
So, exactly. And I'm so happy for all those women who have learned, you know, that there is hope for them and there is an opportunity for them to reparent themselves or create this like internal healing so that they can have a better future. So I appreciate you like helping the collective in general. So thank you, Janelle.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So what I want to talk about that I find interesting is I want to talk about it from a male perspective, if you don't mind if I jump into that, because a lot of people think that, you know, you can only have a father wound and only be influenced it if you are a woman and you've, like, you know, felt the loss of a lack of a father. But a lot of males show up from a wounded perspective because there's not enough of like an emotional guidance from a father perspective. And so I know we talked about this a little bit, and I want to tell my audience here about how a lot of the time, whether you're you know, you identify as the masculine or the feminine, if you've dated a masculine that's had a wounded, like, you know, masculine perspective, whether they've either tried to overcompensate or they are unavailably, like, you know, they're not unavailable to show up, there are strong reasons for it. And for me personally, in my own life, I'd like to share with you guys and with you, Janelle, that growing up, my dad was unavailable, really, like emotionally, physically. He just wasn't around. He was in the military when we were kids. And then after that, he just worked really hard because there were 5 of us kids, plus 2 of my cousins that my mom adopted. So there were 7 of us. And he had to like work his ass off to pay for it. And I was the youngest.
Right.
And what was interesting is that by the time he had me, he was so much older in his life as well. So he was less capable to show me the things you'd expect a dad would show a son, you know, like how to play a game, or how to, like, you know, open a bottle, or how to, you know, kick a ball, any of those things, or even how to like structure your life and how to be disciplined. And he wasn't available. And so what I realized was I was unconsciously growing up with this perspective without direction, without solidity, without like a sense of a masculinity that was really in there for my life. And I grew up expecting more from my mother. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting because one wound attempts to get us to overcompensate on the other end, right?
For sure.
And so I wanted my mother to be so present for me because my dad was so absent, but she herself was already so fatigued. She was also not really emotionally capable. She was more of a provider rather than a nurturer parent. So I had 2 of those. And it ended up with me growing up with this identity for myself of being what we call today the whole Peter Pan, you know, kind of guy, where I get stimulated by different things. And because I have a lack of internal structure, I'm so happy to be like drawn on this end, on this end, on this end. And how it developed, especially in relationships. And this is what I want you to understand, folks, is it developed with a lack of internal commitment to women in relationships, because I wasn't taught around how to have a strong foundation, structure, discipline, commitment, understanding how to be secure enough to realize that my partner's disappointment doesn't mean something about me. Mm. But because I didn't have that healthy masculinity, every time I felt a partner who was disappointed, or even if they were distant, if they were traveling or whatever, I felt so insecure. And I felt like I had such a wounded masculine at that point that I wanted to overcompensate. And truth be told, to share with all of you guys, I would run out and seek the attention of other women, because unconsciously that was me attempting to run to my mom when I wasn't getting, like, you know, the focus or attention of my dad, and to hope I would get her attention. And that obviously led to like to cheating, to so many other things, which, you know, at the end of the day destroyed my relationships. And so once I started healing on my own and with myself, I started to recognize that it is so important for me to have that level of guidance of masculinity, even if my dad can't give it to me, to be able to provide it for my own inner child. Yeah. Because otherwise I'm just wandering, as instead of being a real man, I'm just being a grown-up boy, like a man-child. And I'm just like running from place to place, running from woman to woman. You know, when it gets tough or challenging, I'd leave. And that's not how you create a healthy, committed relationship, right? Mm. So that's just...
I've totally dated some of you, and I'm sure some of the people watching can be like, yeah.
There's lots of me, past me. There's lots of past me in the world out there. I know this very well. A lot of them come back to me right now and be like, yo, what happened to you? So I'm well aware.
Who are you now? Yeah. No, and I was that person that was like, why do these guys keep leaving? But it's because I wasn't, like we said, I didn't feel worthy of that.
Exactly.
And thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that from the male perspective.